My name is Roland D. Brown. I was born in Greenville, Tennessee in March 13th, 1932.
March 15th?
13th.
13th?
1932.
Ah, so you got birthday several days ago.
I had a birthday last Thursday. I'm 82 years old.
82 years old. Tell me about your family background.
I have had many families. Not something I'm proud of. When I came home from Korea, I was a little bit disturbed as I went in when I was 16 and a half. And later on in life, one of my military psychiatrists said my brain wasn't young enough to absorb what I did, and it hung with me a little bit too much. And so I was married when I was 20.
No, I'm talking about the family that you were
my mother and
growing.
father.
Yeah, and your
I was born during the Depression, and we were very poor, as many people were back then. We were I lived in Tennessee only 2 years, and then my parents moved to Iowa. My father was in Iowa and met my mother, and then went back to Tennessee during the Depression and lived there 2 years, and then went back to Iowa in 34, I believe it was, 34 or 35, 34. And he was a farmhand, and then when I was about 14, I was a money monger. I went to school, I had 4-H products and stuff, and I raised hogs. I saved every penny I earned, and I had over $3,000 by the time in my bank account by the time I was 12, 13. I was a freshman in high school, and I had over $3,000 in my bank account. I put my sister through college.
Wow.
With my money.
That's a lot of money, isn't it?
Back then it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I saved it all from my hogs I raised for my 4-H projects. And my father asked if he could use my money, which he did, to start his own farming operation, which I got paid back. I got that paid back, no problem. And so I was more or less raised on the farm.
And you had to go through many different schools because you've been moving around.
I attended, I started at this one school in Lisbon, Iowa. Then we moved to Tipton, another school, and we moved to Springville. Then we moved back to Lisbon, so I finished schooling where I started.
You didn't have any problem with that?
My grades suffered some because of I wasn't a real good student. But
so when did you graduate high school?
I did not graduate high school. I left high school in my sophomore year. A friend of mine,
when was that?
That was in 1948. And shortly after that, a friend of mine and I joined the service and went to Korea.
Oh, so tell me about what were you doing when the Korean War broke out?
I was working for I was farming with my father and working for a cabinet maker. And then a friend of mine and I decided we would join the service
Were you not afraid of losing your life in the war? Why did you decide?
Well, being young and unexperienced with war. My father was in the Navy in World War II.
Oh.
And I did not know the ramifications of what was going on. All I knew was they needed men to go over and fight. So that was the only reason I joined the service. At that time, the need for soldiers was very desperate. So we had 8 weeks of basic and...
Well, before, so did you enlist?
Yes.
Okay. When and what?
October 3rd, 1950.
October 3rd,
1950.
Army?
Army.
Okay.
I joined the Air Force, but when we got to Des Moines, Iowa, to the recruiting place, they put about 20 of us into another room, and they wanted us had sign this document. And then after we signed the documents, and this gentleman collected all the papers, he says, "Now you're in the U.S. Army." Yeah, he says, "That's where we need you. We don't need any more men in the Air Force." And all my life, I was interested in flying, so that's what I wanted to do. That was the main reason I enlisted.
So did you appeal?
No.
Why not?
Too young, too stupid.
Where did you go to receive military training? What?
Fort Leonard Wood,
Missouri.
It was a closed base, and we opened it up. Our truckload of guys in civilian clothes opened up that base. They told us to only bring what you're wearing. Well, we wore the same civilian clothes for a whole week before we ever got a uniform.
Wow, why?
Because the base was closed, and when we got in there was only a half a dozen people on the base when we went in to open up.
So they were really in a hurry.
Oh, yes. So all we did was paint rocks for a week and wear with our civilian clothes on, and we were filthy dirty by the time we got our uniforms.
So you were painting the rocks?
Yeah. That's what they had us doing. I was an expert rifleman.
Rifleman.
I could... we were in training, I hit the bullseye every time I shot. I hit the bullseye, no matter whether it was 100 yards or 300 yards. The 3 platoon sergeants had a bet. Each one had a sharpshooter in their platoon, and they put us up against one another. And the platoon that won got to share 3 cases of beer.
How long was your basic training?
8 weeks.
8 weeks. And then what happened?
Then we got shipped off to Korea.
Were you informed anything about Korea while you were boot camp?
No, none.
We
had nothing. We didn't know anything about Korea.
And did you know anything about Korea before you joined the military?
I knew very little. I knew there was a lot of action going on over there, and there were some of our guys were getting killed and so forth. And so, with a couple of my older mentors, we had talked about Korea, but I didn't know much about Korea. No, I did not.
What did people talk about the Korean War at the time?
Just that we were there fighting, and that intrigued me. My father and I didn't see eye to eye. So that's why I was working for a cabinet maker. And I didn't live at home at that time. So before I left, the only person I saw was my mother before I left, because she signed my papers so I could get in at my age.
Remember, when did you leave for Korea? Where?
I left out of Pier 69 from Seattle.
When?
That was in March of 1951. And we took a troop ship to Yokohama. And then we spent about a few days there, and then we took another troop ship to Busan. And we disembarked in Busan.
Do you remember when you arrived in Busan?
It was, I think, the latter part of March. The exact date I don't recall.
How was the situation in Busan when you first arrived there?
Oh, it was horrible. The poor people were. There was nothing. Their sewage ran down the streets in the gutters, gutter type, and children running around, homeless, and you just felt so sorry for them. At that time, I was absolutely amazed at the type of living conditions that they had there, and little children running around begging you for candy or something to eat. They were just they were very desperate people back then. And of course, I didn't see too much of Busan. We got up, they put us in trucks and zoomed us right to the front lines.
So where did you go from there?
I can't tell you. We went to the front lines.
Do you know the name, like Pork Chop Hill or?
Oh, we were there. We were at all them places. We were all over Korea. The first big battle was, we weren't even there a week in Korea when our first big battle. And
so who was the main enemy?
the North Koreans.
Was it Chinese or North?
There was Chinese involved too, yes.
Too?
Yes.
Do you remember when was the first big battle that you were involved? Was it in the middle or west or east?
More in the East Central.
East Central.
East Central.
And can you describe the first battle that you were involved?
We had mortars in the rear that were way off their mark. Nobody had enough training. No one got enough training to operate the things that were out, like the mortars and so forth. And we had a lot of men killed from our own non-enemy fire.
Non-enemy fire, friendly fire.
Friendly fire.
Can you explain how it happened?
We were moving so fast they couldn't keep up with us. That was the big problem. But at different times, we had the military offshore, the naval military firing in, and they would not have the proper coordinates, and especially at nighttime. They fired a lot at nighttime from the carriers, and we would clamor to get out of their way, because we knew they were ours. They were ours. Our people were firing on us. So.
I mean, didn't people complain and arguing?
Oh yeah. Oh yes, definitely. The radios weren't crazy, but the communications back then wasn't real great either.
Do you remember any specific moment where the people would just keep arguing and yelling that you are killing us?
Oh yeah, oh definitely. We dug holes with our helmets, trying to get out of the way a lot of times.
This interview will be viewed by many young children too. So tell me about typical day when you were involved in the civil battle.
We had numerous battles from day to day, but the one that I remember the most is when we did the 16-day push. When
was it?
Dates I can't tell you the dates. It was in the summertime
of 19.
It was 1951. And it was in the summertime. I think the first big battle we were in was when we rescued the first calf. I remember that. The first calf was overrun, and we were, I'm not sure, but I think it was the 26th Regiment and the 7th Regiment, I believe I think were the two regiments that that went on a push that got rid of the North Koreans at that time. That was when I think the first Cav lost their colors that time. That was the first major battle I think we were in. We'd been in a few before that. But at different times they would need us in another sector, so we'd go down the mountain and jump in trucks and they would shoot us off to another area and we'd be in another battle, you know.
Did you regret that you become a rifleman?
Never.
Never?
No. We were all friends, you know, and I was attached to a company. The 4th platoon was the heavy equipment platoon. They had all the big machine guns and mortars, the 60 millimeter mortars, not the big ones, and a 57 millimeter recoilless rifle, which I became an expert shot with that. And I was an ammo bearer, then I was the gunner, and then I was a squad leader, and then I was a platoon sergeant. And at one time we had no officers, so I was platoon sergeant and platoon leader of the 4th platoon because of the people that got hurt or got wounded or deceased.
When did you leave Korea?
I came back, I'm not real sure. I think it was in February or March. February, I believe it was, I rotated. We tried to carry some sea rations with us. A lot of days we didn't eat.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Were you not hungry?
Oh, yeah.
How could you survive?
Well, the kitchen never kept up with us. We sometimes went days and days without having a warm meal.
But you were able to eat sea ration
when we had them.
When you had it, so there were.
We didn't have them every day.
Oh, boy.
There was a lot of times, especially when we were on this big 16-day push, we didn't eat for 2 or 3 days. One time we got surrounded by the Chinese and the North Koreans, and they had to do airdrops to us, ammo and food. And we had to fight the Chinese and the North Koreans for the sea rations and the ammunition. They were using a lot of the same guns we were because of they'd overrun a position and they would confiscate the weapons that were left behind. And so a lot of times they were after the same ammo that we were after when they did the airdrops. But this one time that they did a big airdrop to us, and we had to after the airdrop, then we had to fight our way out of there. So, no, I can't remember where that was at. It was too many things going on for a young mind to remember.
Without eating for 2 or 3 days.
Oh yes.
Were you able to move around?
Oh yes. Yeah. Sometimes we had a package of crackers, and sometimes, the old round stale crackers that they had. Sometimes we had to share a can of hamburger patties or sausage patties with one another. If somebody had a can left over or something, we got by.
Where did you sleep? And it was during the summer, so it must be very hot and rainy.
We were there for 4 seasons.
4 seasons.
We were there for winter, summer, fall.
But when you have a 16-day push, was summer, right?
Most of the time.
Yeah. Yes. And where did you sleep and what was the condition?
On the ground. If we had a sleeping bag,
You didn't have a sleeping bag?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Then you just sleep in the field?
Slept on the ground. Yeah. Oh yes.
No mosquitoes?
No, not in the mountains. Not that I recall. It was hard sometimes. It was hard, very hard. But you were so tired after you climbed mountains all day or walked all day. Sometimes we'd walk 5 or 6 miles a day, full field pack, and then we'd have to dump our full field pack and start fighting. And then nighttime come, we had We had no sleeper bag, we had no sea ranches, we didn't have anything. So
You didn't have blanket either.
until they had the Rock Army, they had some Rock Army that was attached to us that would carry our things to us after we paused.
So you didn't even have a tent.
No, oh no, never.
So you just
Only had
stayed
a
in the
tent
foxhole.
when we were back on R&R. We had tents, but we never carried a tent with us.
That's
no.
horrible, isn't it?
Oh yeah, never had any cup. We slept in foxholes, bunkers, old bunkers, and so forth. Yeah.
Do you have PTSD?
Yes, I do. I've sort of learned to control it through the years. I belong to a PTS group that goes to Audie Murphy twice a month, yeah, first and third Fridays of every month. Standing in bed, fighting, yelling, standing in bed, standing up on the bed on the mattress, fighting and yelling.
You didn't know you were doing that?
No. The first time I was ever treated for it was after I moved to San Antonio in 1980 with an insurance company that sent me down here to open up an office. The thing that got me over my PTSD the most was my wife and my religion.
What is your religion?
Well, I was baptized in the Methodist church when I was younger. I sang in the youth choir and did all that. Then I left that church when we moved, and when I first started my own business in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, I started going to a Lutheran church. And then I was also baptized in the Lutheran church. That's a must when you join the Lutheran church, no matter if you've been baptized before. Then, when I moved to San Antonio, I met my wife, Betty. She was a Presbyterian, so I started going to the Presbyterian church. And I was always aware that I had God in my life. When I was in Korea, I prayed a lot. During trying times, we had many of those. And, it's kind of hard.
Yeah. If you don't want to share it, it's okay.
With the help of my wife and my religion, I became attached to a PTSD group in San Antonio.
Why were you in Korea all this time?
Oh, I wanted to be there. That was our goal, was to be there and fight for our country. That was, and the people in Korea. After I got there and saw what they were like, it was just, we got up in the front lines and I forgot about it, but then later on it comes back. It always comes back to my first vision of Busan was the people were so poor and had nothing. And now, I've not been back to Korea since then, but what I read and what I see, and it's become quite a country.
What do you know about Korea?
And I know they have a lot of industry now that they never had. When I was over there, the last time I went through Seoul, Korea, there wasn't a house standing, and now it's a thriving metropolis. I never got back to Busan ever. We flew out of Korea and went to Japan, and then when I rotated. So I never got back to Busan to see if it had changed any, but I doubt it had at that point. It was probably the same as it was. But we had, I was decorated in Korea. There were 6 of us. This is not publicly known, but we were across the Yalu River when General MacArthur wanted to go on he wanted to continue the battle. There were 6 of us that got decorated on the north side of the Yalu River. General MacArthur decorated 6 of us on the bank of the river.
Did you get any medal?
Yes,
What?
Bronze Star.
Bronze Star?
Yes.
Did you write a letter back to your family, your mom?
As many as I could. We communicated maybe once a month.
What was the content? What did you write?
Just what we were doing.
Why did you fight for, and what do you think about it now?
I think that the legacy is just they've become more like us. They're prospering. They're living good. Their economy is great, and I feel real honored to have been part of that. Part of helping the country get reestablished.
Would you want to go back to Korea?
I'd love to. I almost did, but I can't afford to go back to Korea.
Do you have animosity against North Koreans or the Chinese?
Oh, I used to, but not anymore. Part of the PTSD is you have dreams about the people you killed, the people that you had to. You were forced to kill them. But you have dreams of those people. Did their family ever see them after that? Did they ever get back? What happened to their family? You know, that's part of PTSD. That's a big part of it. Even though you were doing your job, it still bothered you. That's a big part of having PTSD. That's where it comes from. You're thinking about the things that you did, the harm that you may have created amongst the soldiers' families that you did away with. You know, that you were part of. And that still bothers me. That still bothers me, but not like it used to.
America still has several battles with other countries. And what is your message to the young generation about the war?
My feelings about some of the engagements that America is in right now is kind of negative. Afghanistan, we have no business in Afghanistan. That's my theory. I might be wrong. But my feeling is we don't need to be there. We need to get out of there because we're not doing any good there. Once the United States backed out a certain percentage of people, they went back to their old regime again.
Any other message that you want to leave to this interview about your service, your battle, afterwards?
I'm appalled at some of the young people's actions about fighting, about U.S. troops being here or there. You know, even though you signed up to be in the military, you may not want to be where they sent you, but you have a job to do. And a lot of the young people don't understand this. They don't understand what goes on when you're in the field. You know, I have a son in Colorado Springs that gets on the internet all the time and pulls up my division and my company and trying to find things about me in there, and so he'll be elated to get this website address and get on it. So
thank you very much, Dean, for your valuable time and sharing all those hard moments in your life during the Korean War. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much for doing the website.